Hey guys, it's Mr. Hammond here, and we're going to be taking some notes over producers or about producers, things that we learned today from class. And then I'm going to ask you to do just a little bit of research and looking at some of the adaptations that plants have and the different ecosystems. So to start with, we're going to do something called a cluster map. So we're going to put the main notes in the center, and then we're going to separate the other adaptations off to the side. Cluster maps kind of allow you to be a little bit more freeform. So to start off, we're going to talk about producers. And what things we learn about producers? Well, they are called producers because they make their own food. Unlike us, they make their own food. And what do they make their own food from? Sunlight. So in parentheses here, I'm going to put a little sun. Okay? So they make their own food from sunlight. Other things we need to know about. They're the building block for the rest of the ecosystem. Now, what do I mean by that? That means that every single other living thing is only here in the ecosystems or on this earth because of producers. You see, most of the organisms out there can't get food from the sun. The only ones that can do that is producers. Now, you may be saying, hey, Mr. Hammond, I got food from a hamburger yesterday. Well, that's true, you did. But you were eating a cow, right? And cows eat grass, and grass gets its energy from the sun. So no matter what you do, when you walk it back, you'll always end up with there being a producer that gets their energy from the sun, and that's how we get our energy is somehow from these producers. So they're very important for the ecosystem. So they make their own food. They're the building block for the ecosystem. A lot of the times they're green. Those are other facts you can say, although they're not always green. And they're mostly green because there's this thing called chlorophyll, which if you want to put this in there, you can. You don't have to. And the chlorophyll is what collects that sunlight. In fact, I'm going to draw an arrow. Sunlight goes into that chlorophyll. Okay? So those are just the basic notes that we need to remember about producers. And most importantly is that all the other consumers and decomposers, they get their energy because the producers are there. If there weren't producers in this world, we would all be dead. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a funky cloud around here. Just like that. I'm going to fancy it up a little bit by putting some lines over here. Make it look cool, like whoa. Taking pride in our work is an important thing that we should do. One second, I gotta sharpen my pencil. Sharpener sounded a little rough there, okay? And now I'm gonna go ahead and do some research. On the Canvas page, under this assignment, there's a link that I put on there, and it says, I believe, it says Plant Adaptation Assignment, and it has a research link in parentheses. You'll click on that, and it will take you to a website that will have a bunch of the different ecosystems and will allow you to research plant adaptations. Now, an adaptation is some characteristic about a plant that has helped it survive in its ecosystem. So I'd like you to find out, what have plants done to survive their ecosystems? I'm going to go ahead and let's do taiga as an example. It's also known as the boreal forest. So I'm going to go ahead and write over in the corner here, and I can pick any spot. I better move this up. I'm going to start. This is going to be the one I do, and I'm going to make it a little bit fancier just because I'm getting bored of normal writing. I forgot how hard block A's are. Your teacher's making some mistakes. There we go. And I'm going to look up some facts. So I'm reading the top paragraph. Also known as the boreal forest, the taiga is dominated by conifers, which are cone-bearing plants, kind of like what we have when we have those big pine cones. They're pine trees. Most of them are evergreen. That's another way of saying pine trees. The taiga has cold winters and warm summers. Some parts of the taiga have a permanently frozen sublayer of soil called permafrost. Hey, we've talked about that before. Drainage is poor due to the permafrost. Drainage means that it's hard for the water to drain into the soil, or due to layers of rock just below the soil surface. So it sounds like it has a rocky, hard, frozen soil. So that would be tough for a plant to get into. And together with the ground carved out by receding glaciers, led to the development of lakes, swamps, and bogs. So the area has a bunch of lakes, swamps, and bogs. Oh, that makes sense. With the frozen earth and with all those rocks, then the water that does fall can't really get and soak into the soil, which means it's going to sit on the top and make a swamp. The taiga receives about 20 inches of precipitation per year. Wow, that's not a ton. The soil has a lot of acid and is poor in minerals. It is covered by a deep layer of partially decomposed conifer needles. Interesting. So it does not sound like a very nice place for plants to have to live, to be honest. Cold, hard soil that doesn't have a lot of nutrients. I wonder what they do to stay alive. Plant adaptations. Many trees are evergreens, so the plants can do photosynthesis right away when the temperature rises. Okay, so what they're talking about there is they are evergreens. So they do photosynthesis throughout the year. So I'll write that down. So evergreens are really good at doing photosynthesis at a longer portion of the year. And they do that because maybe they don't have quite as strong warm seasons like we have here. We get up to 90 degrees in the summer. I don't think it does that in the taiga. Let's see the other facts. Waxy coating on needles prevents evaporation. Ooh, so if it prevents evaporation, that means it doesn't let water get away from the leaves. So that's another reason they have needles. So wax coated needles. I'd always wondered why when I go up to a pine tree and I grab them, they have kind of a smooth feel. Wax-coated needles prevents evaporation. So they don't lose their water. They can hold on to their water for longer. That's awesome. And I'm going to find one more. It says needles are dark in color, allowing more solar heat to be absorbed. Yeah, I think that's a great one. Huh. Okay. Oh, this is another one. The needles, like leaves, help reduce water loss, okay? Many trees have branches that droop downward to help shed excess snow to keep the branches from breaking. That's interesting, but I think I like the dark needles better. So I'm going to go ahead and write that fact down. Hope you can see this. I'm getting near the end. Dark green needles collect more sun. And that goes back to the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is what makes it green. So the more chlorophyll, the more sun you can collect. That makes sense. So I'm done with this. I'm going to do a different outline for that. And I'm going to draw a line connecting my main notes with my notes over the taiga. You know, and I didn't spell taiga right. I'm really messing up here, guys. Sorry. This is a tired teacher here today. It's Friday of last week, and I'm kind of wiped out. There we go. Hey, I fixed it. All right, so now what I want you to do is I want you to do at least two more. So you just got to pick two more ecosystems. You can pick the desert, any ones you want. And for whatever you pick, you have to find 3 adaptations that you like. Look off the notes. Do me a favor, read about the ecosystem first, and then find 3 pieces of notes. Most of them have more than 3, but you just got to pick your 3 favorites. And you can summarize those notes. My main thing is that you try to understand those notes. Don't just sit there and write them down and have no idea what you wrote down. Go to a parent, talk to a parent about, but I want to be ready to discuss this on the next day. So I've already done one for you. We took some generic notes. give me 2 more, and you should have plenty of room to give me 2 more. And let's say for the title of this assignment, we'll say Adaptations of Plants. Adaptations of Producers. Also, I move my hand here so you can see my writing. I'll need to put that into my front table of contents. All right. I hope you can see all that. If you would like to go through and color, because you're a coloring person like I am, you can always go back, and if you want to color, but it's not required. That's just something extra that you might want to do.